I'm going to give you an example of a scholar who writes about the book of Genesis, and he proposes that the book of Genesis was written in a variety of stages. There's the very oldest, which he calls the book of J, based on the name Yahweh being used for God. Then there's the E text, which is so named because of the word Elohim. It translates in modern English as God, but that's inaccurate. It actually means the gods. It's a plural word. Generally, we'd prefer to think of it as the divine beings or the powers or something like that. At any rate, you've got the J text, which is quite old, the E text, which is not quite as old, and then you've got the P text, the priestly text. This is the text that the priest put together from the original text, the J and the E text, but they put lessons in there so that you could read the story and then get some kind of lesson out of it. They also decided that some chapters were missing, so they were going to put such chapters in. We'll talk about this maybe later on. The fourth text was something called the Deuteronomist, and the Deuteronomist was the rule writer. In this case, as with the priestly case, we're probably not talking about a single writer. We're probably talking about a group of writers. By this time, they are men. But Harold Bloom's very controversial thesis is that the original text, the book of J, was written by a woman. Now, he argues that we don't know anything about the writer of the book of J or anything else about the book of Genesis. We just don't have any information. So he's no more right or wrong than anybody else who has a theory on this. But his thesis is backed up by his reading of this thing, which he says this is the humor of a woman writing. A man wrote the rest of this. We can see that. But this one has a different sense of humor. And he gives a great deal of evidence. If you want to read this, I highly recommend this book. It's called The Book of J. The commentary is written by Harold Bloom, B-L-O-O-M. If you have any interest in this sort of thing, his translation, actually it's not his, it's Rosenberg's translation. Anyway, that translation is a Jewish translation as opposed to a Christian translation, and when you read that thing, you will find that it's quite different. One of the things that shows up goes along with what I was telling you about the women deep in the cave, explaining the drawings and using those drawings as graphic enhancements to the stories they told. In the book of J, the translator often has the phrase, "Now look." And the question I have to ask is, now look at what? And I have to conclude that there must have been, in the ancient tradition, a group of pictures that they looked at. Now look. This is what's happening in this one. Now look. This is what's happening in this one.